when you're starting out, like you don't have history. And so the thing that I would say is, you have to first off turn off the negative talk track in your head, or the I'm not good enough talk track in your head, or I don't possibly have anything I can offer in your head, because that's just, contradictory to what you're trying to achieve. The other thing that I would say is, it starts with slowly starting to gain credibility. I mean, for those on the call that are, just getting out of school, what you have to offer is you have demonstrated a significant ability to learn in a very complicated, with a very complicated course load. And so your ability to learn quickly and adapt quickly is absolutely a skill that you should feel very good about, because it puts you in a great position when you're starting out in a new role, because you're open to, you don't have kind of your own biases around, I don't have anything to learn, I've been doing this for a long time. You have the fresh perspective of, wow, there's so much I don't know. And there's so much you will tune in and you will listen a lot more than, a lot of folks that are later in their career will. And I think that puts you in a fresh mindset. So there's confidence in that. And one, assess the skills that you do have. Look at slowly starting to build that credibility in the environment that you're working in. And that will slowly add to the confidence that you have, to be able to contribute at just a significantly higher level.
Yeah, I would just like to add a little bit more on top of that. So I think one of the personal challenges that I have had is when I knew the answer and when I was the subject matter expert, when I gave my opinion, and what I thought I was doing was I thought I was trying to be confident, and I was actually asserting or making a statement. And the feedback I got from one of my close associates is the person basically told me, look, you are right, and what you were saying was right, but it did rub people off in the wrong way because of other dynamics. And the reaction sometimes from people is such that you suddenly get extremely discouraged, right? So in that moment in time, you are gathering yourself, you are actually trying to make a comment, you are trying to give an opinion, you are trying to get the best confident, posture. And sometimes the reaction is not what you expect. And those kinds of moments are actually very discouraging, okay? So the reason I'm sharing this with you is two things. One is that don't let these kinds of moments, bring you down, because these are part of the course of natural evolution. Unless you build credibility, you are not going to be able to get past those situations. So these things will happen. There will be such moments. So you have to just pick up yourself, pick back up, and go back into the conversation again. That's one suggestion. The second thing, the advice I was given was, try to be less assertive and stating an opinion. So it's the way you say things, it's not what you say. And I thought that was very, very sort of like enlightening. So instead of saying like, I think this is the right answer, basically saying, do we believe that we should approach it in this way? Or maybe here is another way of thinking about it, or this is another approach we could take. But when you make it more of a we, and when you kind of like invite people and say that, hey, what do you think about this idea? The act of involving others suddenly makes them more sort of like friendly and more palatable to the idea that you're bringing to the table. So I feel confidence is absolutely a very, very critical element of how we behave, how we communicate. And those were my two learnings, which is pick yourself back up, because you may not always get the best response while you're trying to be most confident in the conversation. So it's just part of the game. You just have to continue, perceive. And the second piece is try to modify the approach by changing the tone, changing the way you communicate. So those would be my two sort of very sort of game-changing thing for me personally.
I think that one of the things you may see if you're in a room of people
who you seem very accomplished, and especially people that are new starting out, is that you're brought in the room. You're there for a reason, and so if you're not, and I think you need to internalize that, or at least be able to think about the fact that you are brought there for a reason, right? You're in that room. You're not just there because they wanted to have an extra body and they had an extra seat available. So I think about, what it is that you can bring to the table, in a meeting. If you are, worried about what that, I think, something is preparation. If you have something you can say the first time, I've often found if you have a presentation, if you can get through the first line, I can always get through the rest of it. But I think some of the preparation and also having that, self-talking to yourself about that you're there for a reason, I think that helps a lot. And then honestly, it becomes better over time. It's kind of like public speaking, right? It's hard to do in the beginning, but then you kind of, it's a skill you get used to.
I also have a thought on this one. So getting your degree is the first step. I actually took some notes here. It doesn't matter if your degree is from, University of Idaho or WSU, or if it's from Stanford. It's, the bottom line is, can you get your job done? So then along those lines, perseverance. If you make a mistake, learn from it, and don't repeat it again. Don't beat yourself up. It's just, okay, I learned something, I'll do it differently next time. Finding a mentor has been really important to me. Most of my mentors have been men because there just weren't women. And ask for guidance. How can I improve on things? Emphasize your skills. One of my skills has always been writing. It's always been easy for me. So it's easy for me to write things up and use that to disseminate knowledge. And then also improve your weaknesses. For me, I was terrified of public speaking. So, just absolutely terrified. So I joined Toastmasters International, and that helped a great deal. And then finally, working with others. When you have a reputation of being like, where I work, we have a saying called one cadence, one team. And when you have a reputation of working in a team environment and building others up, number one, it's a lot more fun. And number two, that's another way to gain credibility and confidence. Then you have other teammates that will also bolster you up in confidence wise, and also will cover you if you fall a little bit.